FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem is being investigated for interfering in a race result. Just another example of the FIA President overstepping his position and potentially bringing the impartiality of the FIA into question in the process. You may remember in last year's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix that Fernando Alonso was given a 5-second penalty for lining up on the grid incorrectly. He then served the penalty and all was thought to be fine. He then brought his car home in third place for the final podium position. On the last lap though, it was brought to the attention of the stewards that perhaps Alonso's penalty was not served correctly. When he served the penalty, it was found that the rear mechanic had put the jack on the car before the 5 seconds were up, supposedly breaching the rule stating that mechanics can't touch the car while a penalty is being served. Because of this, Alonso was then given a further post-race 10-second penalty which pushed him off the podium and into 4th place. During the team's right to review decision with the stewards, the Alonso decision was then overturned, something which doesn't happen all too often in Formula 1. It was claimed that there was additional evidence provided, including multiple instances of other teams doing the same thing while serving penalties without being penalised. And everything was right in the world. We thought that common sense had prevailed for the first time in Formula 1 history. Except it turned out that that isn't exactly how things happened. BBC News has reported that a whistleblower now claims that Ben Sulayem called Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the FIA's president for sport for the Middle East and North Africa, who was serving in an official capacity at the event, and he then made it clear to him that he thought the 10-second penalty should be rescinded and expected the F1 stewards to overturn their decision. At this point, I want to make it clear that there's no evidence that the stewards themselves were passed this information or that their decision was influenced in any way, shape or form by this apparent interference. Let's call it alleged interference. It is, however, extremely concerning that the president of the FIA is trying to influence a result in any capacity. The fact that he thinks it's okay to do that is concerning. He is there to ensure the smooth running of the FIA, the governing body. It needs to be impartial. That is the most important thing in a sport like this. He's not there to be a judge, jury in any manner. That is for the stewards. The fact that he feels in the power that he has, that he's able to influence these decisions and expect them to be overturned, that should be concerning for everyone. Sadly, this is not his first controversy since taking over the job in December 2021. Last season, he opened a can of worms by launching an investigation into Toto Wolff and his wife, the F1 Academy Managing Director Susie Wolff, claiming not only an alleged conflict of interest, but that multiple Formula 1 teams had complained. The investigation was then instantly dropped when all 10 teams showed support for Susie Wolff and claimed that none of them had in fact complained. Back in the early part of the year, he was also in hot water for getting involved in the value of Formula 1. Ben Sulayem posted on Twitter that, as the custodians of motorsport, the FIA, as a non-profit organisation, is cautious about alleged inflated price tags of $20 billion being put on Formula 1. This itself might not seem like a big deal, but it was actually directly in relation to a Saudi Arabian bid to buy Formula 1, which then never came to fruition. Again, this is nothing to do with the FIA. This is a Formula 1 commercial matter. He also publicly supported the Andretti entry on social media. In fact, he was pushing F1 for an 11th team, claiming the FIA had approved the bid. I can't really hold this against him, as I think it would have been good for the sport. But again, as the president of the FIA, he shouldn't be getting involved in these matters, especially publicly. The timeline of the alleged Alonso interference is interesting though, because it comes after a point where he said he was stepping back from direct involvement in F1 and leaving the day-to-day to the director of single-seater racing, Nicholas Tombias. Clearly, he didn't take a full step back. Honestly, tweets are one thing. He should know better than getting involved in these things, to be honest with you, when it comes to the running of Formula 1, but he is entitled to his opinion and he feels like he wants to share that. I will let him off with that. The problem is it shows a clear pattern of him trying to influence areas of Formula 1 that are not his jurisdiction. The potential influencing of a race, though, now that's something else entirely, and it cannot be brushed under the carpet. If Alonso's penalty would have stood that day, he would have ended up dropping a position, 2 positions actually, in the World Championship by the end of the season. That's how big this incident is. Now imagine if this was the world champion. Imagine if this was a fight for first and second place. We don't know if there's been influences in other areas. We have to be able to trust the FIA and their impartiality. If it turns out that one result has been influenced, no matter how small, it brings into question their decision making. I will just say this as well. It's worth noting that Ben Sulayem was also in charge and oversaw the investigation into Abu Dhabi 2021. I'm not suggesting he or anyone else didn't look into the matter thoroughly, but based on the current decisions that I'm seeing and his questionable demeanor, I'm not sure I can 100% trust his impartiality and his leadership, and that's concerning. This investigation is ongoing, and of course, I repeat, alleged whistleblower, alleged evidence, of course. But if it's true, it's really, really concerning and it needs to be addressed. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.